The Poet's Perspective podcast is brought to you by Urban Grind Coffee House. What better way than to start your day by grabbing life by the beans? Coffee beans, that is. Visit urbangrindatlanta.com to get coffee delivered right to your doorstep, and be sure to use the discount code POETRY to save 15% on your next pound of coffee. And if you'd like to be a part of the culture and represent the eclectic vibe and positive energy that Urban Grind has to offer, you can choose from our selection of brand new Urban Grind apparel. And if you're in the Atlanta area, make sure you visit Urban Grind for their selection of specialty coffees, sandwiches, and pastries while you get your studying done, working on that $1 million idea, or just meeting up with friends. Urban Grind Coffee House. Keep grinding.
Hey,
Jahman,
hey.
what's going on, brother?
Man, living. I didn't send this to everybody. Now my phone blowing up because they liking the live. There we go.
All right. You good? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you good. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, you coming through clean, man. So,
Perfect.
yeah, man, Jahman, man, what's going on, man? How you feeling?
I'm good. I'm good. You know, always working on some stuff right now
Okay.
with my videographer. Um just doing we doing a kids show. We doing a kids show, a YouTube show. So
Oh,
we
awesome.
editing down the episodes right now. That tedious, arduous task.
Right. Okay. So I don't really do formal introductions. I usually just tell people like kind of how this came about. So for everybody that's joined us, shout out to everybody that's joined us, everybody that's tuned in. So so Jahman is the first guest we've had on, and we've been doing this since COVID started, probably like the middle of March. So Jahman is the first guest I've had on that I didn't know personally, or that at least I never seen like actually performing. So I know I've been following you since you were doing a one man show, I think maybe like a couple years ago, called
Yeah.
like medium T-shirt or something. Medium
Oh, the medium shirt tour.
the
The
medium
medium
shirt
shirt
tour.
tour.
I
And
remember.
I did black it up.
Yeah, I had seen that, and I started following you, and I seen a piece you had did something talking about like black people going to heaven or something like that. And I was
White heaven.
I was like, yeah, this brother's dope. So I kind of been following your move ever since. And I reached out to Real Talk, Brandon Alexander Williams from Chicago, and he gave me a list of people that I should have on, and you were on that list. So this is how we here. So Jahman, go ahead and introduce yourself to the people who might not be familiar.
Yes, for those who don't know me, my name is Jahman Ariel Hill. I'm a poet. Among other things, I'm a creative really based out of Birmingham, Alabama. I was raised in Kansas, but I claim Birmingham like a stepchild whose stepmother is Beyonce. I love bacon and I love to cook. I said bacon, B-A-C-O-N. And then I love to cook. I don't like to bake. It's not my forte.
Thanks for clarifying that.
And yeah, I'm the executive co-executive director of the Flourish Alabama. It's a nonprofit here in Birmingham dedicated to helping young artists bloom. We do all sorts of awesome collaborative art projects with middle school and high schoolers, and that's I love it. I love it so much. We just left the meeting, just literally just left the meeting. We've been working since like 4. And I was so excited to do this tonight. We wrapped up that meeting right on time to come into this, so I'm very excited.
That's what's up, man. I appreciate you being here with us, man. Like I said, man, I've been following your move. You've been a force in the spoken word community. So I want to thank you, man, for putting on for poetry, man. That's very important, man. I feel like poets got some of the most important voices right now, and you definitely doing your part. So I appreciate that. So how it goes is I usually let the poets do 2 or 3 pieces, whatever's in your heart, really, and then we'll get into a little conversation after that. So from here, the floor is yours.
Perfect. And I love this format, y'all. The way that I'm going to be doing this is I got a couple pieces because I'm interested in the conversations that they'll create. The first piece, though, I have 2 pieces, 3 pieces, but the first piece is just kind of in this moment, in this time. I feel like it's needed. Cause I don't know about y'all, but I've been unnecessarily glued to CNN. Like I just been watching the battle
Hey
come in
man,
like
you
one by
ain't the only
one.
one, man. You ain't the only one.
And today I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And I really wanted to do something that just kind of allowed me to breathe. So here's this poem. Today I woke up. I tried this experiment called loving myself, but today I failed. Today I laughed because although I failed the experiment, the attempt was enough. Today I was joy. I was also allowed to despite pain, despite sorrow, despite tired. Like today I spite it. I felt joy to spite pain, to spite sorrow, to spite tired. Today I was holy. My broken pieces did not take away from my holiness, from my wholeness. Today, I saw God in everything. So I give thanks for the God got shining through you, though I swear sometimes some of us do everything to dim it. Today, I understood we all have dimmer days, dark days, days where the light bulb flicker, days where the power go out, days we are not okay, and that is okay. We are not perfect. We are not Titan. If we be Samson with the bald fade, but we are still Samson. Esther was always Esther. Jesus was always Jesus. He ain't walk on water every day. See, your worst days are only your worst days because you have had better ones, and you are those too, and you may not feel it right now. But that's okay. That is okay. All right, so I'm in Birmingham. I'm in Birmingham, Alabama. Birmingham, Alabama is very important to me. I'm not from the city, but the city means so much to me. And these two poems will talk specifically about my city. And about this city that has embraced me. Even though I'm not from here, they have embraced me as one of their own. And have allowed me to do this important work here. So these couple poems, we're gonna get into it. This first poem is called Iron. Birmingham is known as the Iron City, known as the Magic City, got a ton of dope nicknames. The city is amazing. But here's the poem. I'm convinced that somewhere in Birmingham, Alabama, there is a child with hands like elevators, but no building to rise in. No resources to help them scrape the sky. This child, with a voice like your favorite dream, can't afford to wake up because the city is still snoring and money don't grow on sleep. Money don't go into black neighborhoods. Money reroute to Mountain Brook, to the summit, to the new stadium. But this child, with hopes like glass slippers, is transported on broken buses, through broken roads, to broken schools, with wonderful football programs. And sometimes I wonder, what if we invested in them? Why try and grow roses from concrete when we can plant a garden when the harvest is already there? Children with minds like marigolds, hearts like wings, each beat a rising sun, for they are stars. But we train them to expect an obit before orbit. These kids could guide solar systems. Each satellite moving in revolution. I am convinced that somewhere in Birmingham, Alabama, there is a child. A child with arms like roses and concrete resolve. But the city slumbers for now. All right, so that's my second poem. That's my second poem. My second poem. I got one more poem for y'all. This one's a little bit longer. My first two poems are a little bit shorter. But they talk about things that are, I always like talking about things that are on my mind. And one of the biggest things on my mind right now is this weird relationship between COVID and gentrification.
Hmm.
And I don't know exactly what that's going to become, but there's a project that I'm working on. Y'all be the first to know. This project that I'm working on called working title, but part of it is called Vanderwall's Thesis. And it explores the life of this kid Vanderwall from Inslee, which is a neighborhood of Birmingham, who his family catches the Rona. They're trying to keep a shop, but these white folks is trying to buy it, and he goes on these adventures. He's battling racists, white supremacists, aliens, monsters. It's kind of like a modern version of Lovecraft Country, like set in the here and now. That's all I'm gonna say about it because I don't want nobody to steal this damn idea. But but I have a grant to work on this project. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but just said it. So here is a little bit of the prequel to it. It's Vanderwall's Thesis, parts 1 and 2. Before I tell you my story, let me ask you this question. If the body is a temple, can a temple be a body? How many times have we passed the dead, left there to rot wealth? Such an evil thing. Passed down from generation to generation to generation like poverty, like stories, like sickness, like ghosts, like here, where I'm from. Not gentrification, but the moments before the wreckage of once was and what will be we, black and so beautiful. Our elders carry estates on their tongues. They speak life into the rubble, into the empty. Where I'm from, the vacant buildings tell stories the white folk won't. They hold history in the hollow of their happiness. Yes, they are happy. Their memory banks only know melanin. Mama say they used to tear the floor up on city nights. Lights would beckon their temples to this body, and everyone danced to its heartbeat. If you listen these days, you can hear the wind whispering between burnt wood. It plays the tune our ancestors cut rugs to. You can still hear Eddie running through the halls at night, his voice drowning. You can sip the same bottle God pulled Paul out of hell. We all fighting temptations, racist, viruses, Satan. One night we danced till our souls caught fire and never came back. Sometimes I feel them. The temples in my body, they dance. They move to the melody of nostalgia. They tell me I am them and they is we. Somebody lied to me, told me a building was just a building right before a white person came and turned it into a slave. Like the walls ain't store memories. Like the floors ain't birthed galaxies. Like the roof ain't a spaceship. Like we ain't never seen it open up and every soul we lost come pouring in. This temple be bloodline. This temple be power. This temple be cousin. It's time for a family reunion. All right, those are the poems.
Hey,
That's yeah.
hey, man, very powerful pieces, man. So I want to get right into it, man. And in a lot of your work, and even a lot of what I just heard, when you talk about the work you do in the community, and just the love you have for people, and going back and listening to a lot of pieces you have online is speaks a lot about Black empowerment. So I want to ask you, man, where was that love from the people? Like, was that something that came with poetry, or was that already there? Where'd that love for the people come from?
So my dad's a pastor and my mom's a nurse.
Oh wow. Combine those.
So
We got this guy right here.
so like I'm literally like that's literally where it comes from. Like growing up, and my parents are workaholics too. Like they're workaholics. So my dad is not only a pastor, He also teaches theology at a college. And he didn't have that degree until like we were in school when he was in school. So like I
Wow.
knew dad before the degree. I knew him before the degree when he was getting the degree. I always tell people I watched him go from Republican when he was in the military. He was a hard-nosed Republican to an Obamacan to a Democrat. I saw the whole transition. I saw the whole transition. Like, I was there for all of that. And my mom, she's not oh, and he's an addictions counselor. He literally every morning he's up working with opioid addicts. So I see that all the time. My mom
Wow.
is a nurse. She teaches nursing. She's got like 3, 4, 5, 6 nursing degrees. She's getting her
Mm.
doctorate right now, about to open up her own practice. Like, and that's what I see all the time. Like this work, but all of this work is centered towards caring for other people. So like that's really always kind of I felt been like my calling, like figuring out how to help other people in whatever ways that I can.
Wow, and I can hear that. So somebody commented, Jahman be spitting hugs and home cooked meals. So, so, so I definitely feel that, man. Everything you just explained is like mom plus dad equals Jahman. That's crazy. But that's what's up, man. But I saw in one of your early interviews you had mentioned somebody asked how what got you into poetry, and you said you used to write raps. So who are some of your early rap influences?
Oh man, y'all gonna laugh at me.
Don't get this answer wrong, Jamon.
I'm about to get what's crazy is I'm about to get this answer wrong, and I know I am. But my earliest, probably my biggest rap influence growing up, caveat, I grew up in Kansas. I grew up in all white town in Kansas. This was before, you was hopping on YouTube and listening to music. So all you got was the radio.
Okay.
And LimeWire. And
Remember LimeWire?
Lil Wayne, mixtape Wayne, bro. Mixtape Wayne.
Hey
I
man,
mean,
hey you can't go wrong with mixtape. That's an excellent answer.
yeah, that was before Wayne as we know him now. But like mixtape Wayne, fuck Bush Wayne, that Wayne, that's
Yeah.
and then it's Wayne, and then as I got older, it was J. Cole, um Kendrick Lamar, and Childish Gambino were like, and then when I got to college, it was really Chance the Rapper took over.
Okay.
But my friend Eric Marable Jr., he's my other co-ED. Like one day, I used to always be freestyling because Wayne would freestyle. So I was like, yo, I gotta be the best freestyle ever. And that was literally I would freestyle for hours. Like I would just be sitting up, like we'd just be doing stuff, I'd be freestyling. And my boy Eric was like, this was 2014. He was like, "Hey, bro, you should write a poem. Like you should try writing
Hmm.
poems." And I was like, "Okay." And that's how we got here.
Wow.
I'll never forget.
So was it anybody in particular like in the poetry world that you looked up to? Like, okay, I can pattern like while you finding your voice, was it anybody like, okay, I can pattern my style after this person or anything like that? Did you have
Oh,
any poetry influences?
yeah, yeah, and I hate them all now. Rudy Francisco,
Oh, heavy
Rudy
hitter.
Francisco, who I almost lost a jersey to in a bet for the dang NBA Finals. Rudy Francisco, Prentice Powell,
Hmm. Heavy
um,
hitter.
yeah, that like I am the
Yeah.
system, and Joshua Bennett. Those are my big three. When I first started listening to poetry, I was like, oh man, those people are dope. And I had poems. I tried to be Rudy in a poem. It was embarrassing. Um, I was like, I'm gonna be Rudy when I spit this poem. That's not me. And it was bad.
But I think as we grow as poets and we grow as artists, we always like when we try to find our voice, we always try to pattern it after somebody in the beginning and realize that shit never
Hmm.
works. So 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 talk about you have or at least from my perspective, you have a pretty unique style. So talk about what it took for you to craft your voice and some of the just the journey as far as like finding Jahman as a poet. What did that journey look like for you?
I think that I had an interesting journey because mine was very much um influenced by and not influenced by poetry slam. And when I say that, I mean I thought I was involved in the poetry slam community in a certain way that I was not. I traveled to a lot of individual slams, and there was no like poetry slam in Birmingham, Alabama, or where I was at in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So it's not like I was going to weekly poetry slams or anything like that.
Hmm.
I traveled and did speech and debate for 4 years. In my last year of speech and debate, I traveled to my first poetry slam with my Rudy Francisco wannabe poems, and I got smacked down. And I saw good poets, like, and I wasn't a good poet at the time. I saw good slam poets who were good at the slam performance
Hmm.
and everything, and were performing well at slams. Because I don't want to say if you don't do well at slam, you're not great at what you do. But I literally got there and I was like, oh, I see what it takes to win on this stage, the performative elements, all of this, because I did this in speech and debate. But I had nowhere to practice. All I had was what I had in Tuscaloosa when I was going to school, and that was critical. I was studying Middle East relations, critical race theory, Arabic, communication like protest rhetoric, and all of those are what influenced my poetry. So
Okay.
it's like it wasn't like I was reading. I never took a poetry class. It wasn't until like 2 years ago that I started getting into poets. Like, oh, I'm gonna go read Lucille Clifton, or oh, I'm about to go read some Maya Angelou, or like I'm gonna go read some Amiri Baraka. Like I never did any of that. I never took a poetry class. I was literally reading like the Frantz Fanon and the phenomenology of spirit and all these other weird books that were for my critical race theory class.
Hmm.
And I would read those books and they would be like, we want a 20-page paper. And I was like, fuck that, but I'll give you 20 poems. Like,
Right.
that's literally like I was writing poems instead of papers. And that's literally like what my style was, taking this theory that I was learning in college on the master's level and turning that into accessible poetry for my folks.
Wow, that is very interesting. That's a unique journey. But you spoke on the difference between like just being a poet, like spoken word reciting things, and then like the slam part of it. So
Yeah.
what's the difference what's the difference from your perspective between being like a slam poet or being just like a poet that, goes around, does their set or whatever? What's the biggest difference you see between the two?
So the biggest difference, and it's what I always tell people, because there's an idea of like a slam style. Like there is an idea of a slam style of or what works well in a slam, which is it varies from slam to slam. But there's a general idea of that. But what I always tell people, and it's kind of where I'm at now with my own performances. And you can kind of see it where you say like, oh, you stand out. All those poems that you probably saw online were performed at slams. So it's interesting. Like it's like, oh, well, Jahman even stands out in the slam setting, and it's because I feel like the only difference between a poet who does a set and a poet who does a slam is when you go up there to do the open mic or when you go up there to do your set, nobody's throwing numbers up at you afterwards.
Right.
That's the difference. Like you can do, there's no like, oh, you can't do this poem. And this. There's never a time. I've never seen it where somebody got up there and started doing a poem, and the MC came out there and was like, "That's not a slam poem. I'm gonna need you to sit down." Like
Right. Right.
there's none of that. You can read. You can. I seen somebody get up there and rap. Like literally get up there and rap,
I've seen it
and
too.
they were fourth in the world. Like rap. They went up there and rap. Shouts out to Dave G. So like it's still like I'm like, yo, that's the only difference. And not everybody wants to get somebody to judge them right away with a scoreboard.
Right.
Because you get judged regardless. But not everybody wants to go up there and get judged with a scoreboard. And I feel that. I'm like, okay, cool. Don't do it.
Hey man,
But if you want to get judged with a
it takes
scoreboard,
balls. It takes balls, I think, to get up there, put your heart
I'm
out there,
competitive.
and then somebody hold
I'm
up the
so
seat.
competitive. I be so competitive. I'm just like, yo, I'm about to go out there. I'm about to say these words. I'm about to spill my heart. And for me, it's always something that's bigger than the scores. And I was actually talking with Stephen Willis about this yesterday. Um, One of the things that really made slam easier for me was like realizing that the work that I create is bigger than the slam. And it's at a certain point that slam then isn't that's not the end goal. Like I'm not performing this poem to get a 10 at the slam. Like in some ways I am, right? I want to win. I'm gonna try and win, but there's something bigger. There's a bigger message or a bigger agenda that I'm trying to push here. So like my poetry then in those moments becomes, what is that bigger? Sometimes when I wake up, God's like, yo, um, tell these people about your city. Like tell them about Birmingham. They might be tell them about where you came from. Tell them about Kansas, right? Talk to them about this thing or this thing or this thing. And I'm like, yo, whatever that is, I'm just gonna do that. I'm just gonna do that. And at that point, even when I get a low score, it's fine. I have so many stories of slams that I went to, and I absolutely the I think the last slam I won, I had this poem. I knew I wanted to talk about Birmingham in the first round. I wanted to talk about my girlfriend in Black Love in the second round. In the third round, I wanted to talk about the city that the slam was in and give thanks to the organizer. And I did my first poem about Birmingham, my Burning Cross poem, high score. Boom, 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 people cheering. The next round, I'm like, yeah, now I'm going to talk about Black love because I feel like it's necessary to talk about Black love in any space. Tanked. Got last in the round. I was like, I thought I lost. Like, and I made it to the final round and then I won because like at that point I was like, cool, I'm about to do this poem about the literally the poets in this slam. I wrote them a poem the night before because I got pulled over. I didn't even get pulled over. Cops just rolled up on me. And all the poets was there in the chat. Hey, where you at? You at this place? All right, cool. We gonna be around the corner. Like, let us know if anything goes down. Da 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 da. Because this cop is trying to. I don't even know what they was. They was sweating me for trying to vacuum some rice out of my car. But I didn't realize that the vacuum place was closed because I'm not from there. I just pulled up to the free vacuum sign that was glowing and was trying to. And these cops pull up. What are you doing here? Where are you from? Why are you here? Where's your ID?
Wow.
Like, what do you? And I'm like, yo, this shit wild. But my fam I felt cool because I was like, yo, I got, they right around the corner. Like, if anything pop off, I got them ready in the chat. So I literally wrote them a poem that night and performed it. I was like, I don't care if I win. This is for y'all. This poem's for y'all. And that's really, I feel like with slams, like when you're getting over that judges judging you, one of the things is like, at a certain point in time, if you can, sometimes it's not bigger than the slam. I'm not gonna tell everybody you got to make it bigger than the slam, but I'm like, yo, I'm just gonna make this bigger than the slam. I got more important things.
Right.
More important things in my life than the slam.
So what do you like better? Do you like slamming or do you like doing sets?
I don't even know, because I love these conversations, and I also love like winning and losing. I like them both. I'm like, because I love being.
Elaborate on that a little bit. Winning and losing.
I'm super competitive. So like if I lose, I'm back even more competitive. Like
Okay, yeah.
I'm like, oh, you beat me. Good, because you think you're gonna win again. I'm like,
right.
yes, let's go again. Like I'm the kind of person that like if you're better than me at a game, you do not want to play me. Because I don't want to stop until I can beat you. And if I'm better than you at a game, I don't really want to play it. I'm like, I don't want to play this. I'm just gonna beat you. But I'm like, oh, you better than me? Let's do it. So that's why I like it. I like that.
Okay.
I'm very competitive.
So tell me this, and this might be a stupid question, but I want your perspective on it. Do you consider yourself a poet or a black poet? And I only say that because you have a lot of empowerment pieces, and you speak a lot about, as much as you talk about that kind of the hardships we go through, you also highlight the empowerment part of it as well, like empowering black people. So do you, and I asked that, do you feel like you have like a responsibility to speak out those things, being black and being a poet?
I would say, I love this question. First of all, it's not stupid, but this is a great question. Um, my idea, the way I think through things is no matter what I do, um, it's going to be tied to the person speaking. So, like, even if you don't set out to be a black poet, when you are speaking, you are black and you is a poet. Like both of those things are true. And as a result, like you can say I'm a poet. You can say I'm a poet, and I don't want to be known as just a black poet. I hate the phrase "just a" and then insert poet or insert black. I don't like that. I don't like neither of those to like simplify or restrict blackness to a thing. I feel like, oh, it's a privilege to be a black poet in some ways, right? Because you have this limitless capability that is you as a black person. And I'm like, man, I'm a black poet. I'm a poet. I'm a creative. I'm a black creative. I'm all of them things. I'm all of them things. And it encompasses, to be a black poet is to be a poet. Like, to be a black poet is to be a poet. So like you don't necessarily, I don't get too caught up or concerned within that, but I really want to push this idea that this just a black, I don't like just a black as if black is already less than. We do it with poetry too. Like we'll say, I'm not just a poet. Like a poet is less than. I'm like, yo, poetry, you find that in a one-man show. You like poetic justice? Poetry is a whole damn movie. Like, you know, like
For
poetry
real.
exists in all of these spaces. Common doing IBM commercials, spitting poetry. Like,
Right. And that's important because I don't think how much the average person realizes that poetry is a part of our everyday lives. Whether we watching movies and TV shows, we hear it in our monologues. I mean, we hear it all throughout our music. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I always try to like highlight the fact that like poetry is all around us, and I feel like the spoken word artists, the poets, man, need more credit, and we need to be on any stage. That's why I love what Brandon Leak did. I know you got the show coming up with him. So
yes.
but talk about that a little bit. How'd that come about? Yeah, how'd you get to be a part of that?
So it's one of the funniest stories. It's one of the funniest stories. Last year at iWhips, I think they took like the top 14 to finals or something. I think it was the top 14 or the top 15. And like I was like, I gotta make finals. It was a point in time where like it was literally this conversation I had with Steven. I was literally putting final stage above the higher purpose. I was like literally putting final stage above the higher purpose. And of course, because I was more focused on making finals than the higher purpose, I ended up in 15th place out of I ended up in 15th place. And I was bummed because I got knocked to 15th on the last poet of the last round. They beat me by point 0.1 and boom,
Wow.
I'm now in 15th place. So I was over there lamenting and all that. Like, I can't believe it. I'm in 15. I was supposed to make, but I was so close. And Brandon got 16th. So
Wow.
Brandon was over there with me, like, man, I was so close. And no lie, I was over there like, who is this guy? But in the moment, I was like, you 16th, you feel the pain. Come on. Like, we talked about it a little bit. I was like, but I was like, all right, cool. Friend made or whatever. And then we kept in touch a little bit, like very sparsely. Like we both did this online thing called Poetry Battles. And I ended up being a judge for the Poetry Battles back in March, and he was a competitor. So like every week, we were giving them feedback and stuff. And then he started literally I was judging one of his poems one week, and then the next week he was doing them on America's Got Talent.
Wow. That's
I was
crazy.
like, yo, he competed in this, but he like, what is he doing on this little Instagram, this little 40 follower Instagram thing? So he absolutely takes off on America's Got Talent. Of course he wins, and I'm messaging him like along the way, like, yo, you doing your thing. And he literally, he was going to Huntsville. And my girl's from Huntsville.
Okay.
I stay only an hour away. And I hit him up. I was like, hey, bro, I see you got a show in Huntsville. I'm going to be there. Like, I'm going to be there. And he was like, hey, you want to open? You want to open for it? I was like, bet. Okay, cool. Like, and that's literally how it happened. Like, Brandon's always been, and I've only known, I'm not going to act like always, like I've known Brandon forever. I've known Brandon going on a year, coming up last week. So like literally last week, because it was the last week of October was iWhips, or the last week of September. I forget, last week or something.
Yeah.
I literally known him for a year and probably more like 6 months virtually. But he's this entire time, this entire process, he's always been about making sure that the community is seen on these different stages. So like I was not surprised when he was like, yo, you should open for me. And he's always been accessible, like to poets, for poets. Like he would come up on my random lives. Like I'd be hosting random open mics and he would come into the live and say something. He said something on this live a little bit earlier. He
seen
came
him on here earlier.
say
Yeah.
hi. He does that. He goes into different lives. He says hi. He checks in with people.
That's
He
what's
makes sure
up.
like, yo, y'all, I'm one of y'all. And it's really cool to see that. Like he is such a perfect person for winning AGT. And it's so cool to see this blow up. I wasn't here for the process. I ain't gonna act like I was. I seen him at iWhips. I was like, who is this man? I was like, who is you? Like you complaining. I'm in 15. Who is you? I was in 15. I was
Right.
supposed to be on final stage. Like ego tripping and everything.
Right.
I was ego tripping like crazy. And I hate that. I hate that I was ego tripping. Because it's one of the things that is like it gets easy to do. I feel like it gets easy to ego trip. It becomes very easy to
Absolutely.
ego trip. Get a little bit of success and you think you deserve success, right? You think you deserve success. And even when you work, like it's working is not enough. Working is often not enough. Like you can, like your shirt says, cop a shirt, y'all, rise and grind. You can rise and grind. And sometimes that don't mean you gonna get what you want, but that don't mean
Yep.
that you now deserve it and everybody else don't. They was working too. Sometimes there's not enough spots. Guys like, yo, that's not your door. Find a new one.
Yep.
If you're religious, I ain't gonna push my religion on y'all.
It's all good. It's all good. We still recognize the higher power, so you know. But that's what's up, man. God, I got so many questions for you. I know we short on time, but yo, man, if you could real quick talk about your writing process and what's that look like? Like, do you get the idea first, or are you more like, okay, I know I got to sit down and write something and it comes, or what's your process like?
I got two different ones. I got two answers. So for the two camps of people. Um, Writing every day is a great practice. I don't believe in writer's block. In the same way that an artist can wake up every single day and draw a smiley face, you can wake up every day and write a sentence.
I
It don't
don't
have to
believe in
be
writer's
good.
block either, but go ahead. I just wanted to say that.
Yep, I don't. Yeah, I
It's
don't
not a
believe in
thing.
it,
It's
bro.
not a
Like,
thing.
you know, just write something. You can write something. It's not unless you got a hand cramp, your hand broke, you can't write, you can't type. Okay, cool. Your writing has physically been blocked. Yo, Poetic Evolution, we finally in a video together. Oh my goodness. We send each other lives all the time, like, hey, this is a live video, this is a live video, and we miss it every time. But he in here this time. I love it. I love it. But yeah, so that's the first thing. Like you can write every day. My writing process, sometimes it's writing every day. Most of the times it's ideas. It's idea. I have an idea. I do a shit ton of research. I hit up my crew. Like I'm really into video directing and stuff now and working with my team of people. So like now, like I'm here with Janavian, absolute homie, who like if you see videos that I'm putting on my page, she's probably producing. So I'm like, yo, I got this idea. When I think of the poetry, I think of the video that goes with it. I think of the
Mm,
visuals that I want with it now. Like the poem that you heard is a video. I'm like, I don't even know if that last poem I did. I'm like, I don't even know what that's gonna sound like. When I perform it, because it's written to be in this video that we just produced. So it's like I do a lot of research, a ton of research. Then I'm just like sitting around, like, okay, you're gonna have to write it now. Eventually, you're gonna have to, you gonna have to write it eventually. And I try to
right.
get as much in my head till it's like, I gotta write it now. I gotta write it now. Deadlines usually help.
Okay. Yeah, definitely, definitely. I agree. And and you've done a lot, man. as far as putting on one man shows. I've seen a lot of your videos. And you teach at University of Alabama? Do I have that correct? You're a
Yes,
professor, correct?
yes,
So
yes.
so if you could
Allegedly.
talk a little bit about the business side of poetry and how do you balance in between the creative process and then coming up with the execution of ideas? How do you balance those two things?
Oh, I love this question. That's really, I forgot to even think about this, y'all. I'm the director or whatever of Poetry University. It's literally a it's literally a class that we created where we're teaching people poetry. We're teaching them poetry writing, poetry performance. We actually have a sector called out PU Business, Poetry University Business. That's running right now with Cat McGill. We got Poetry University Saturday School that are shorter classes for people. And really when I think about poetry on the business side of things, um first, I always tell people you do not have to be a starving artist. You do not have to be a starving artist. Like you don't
I
have
don't
to. You
believe
don't
in
have
that
to.
either. But go ahead. I just wanted
You
to say that.
yes, like preach. Like, you don't have to be a starving artist. There are different ways you can eat. And the way that I think about that creative process is some people think like, okay, so the art is sacred. The art is sacred. So you have to stick to the process and trust that process and all of that. And that's true. The art is sacred. But also living is sacred. If you want to live, you should treat it as a sacred thing. So why not, while you're working on your process, find ways to make that process into product. So like I'm gonna turn my process into product. I'm a professor at a university. I'm not the best at it. I'm figuring it out. But I like poetry more. So why don't I build a university, poetry university? That's my manager's idea. He brings it to me. I'm like, yeah, because I'm a professor and I love poetry. I would love to teach poetry courses. I work with kids. I love working with kids. I want to figure out a way that I can make sure that my people eat. I'm not the best at building a nonprofit. I've never built one before. I practiced it in college. So why don't I make this part of my process? Now we're building a nonprofit organization. We're working with thousands of kids within our first 6 months, and that's with coronavirus.
Wow.
Like that's because process. Like, okay, we understand that this is a process. Why not make a product out of it? We're learning Zoom and we're teaching on Zoom. Like we're teaching Zoom classes while we're learning it. We're
Mm.
learning to build a YouTube show. We're literally just like building an episode right now. We don't know how to do that, but we're learning how to do that, and we're making a product out of it. We're making a product out of our process. And when you're working on things, that's what I always tell people. When you pick up a skill, learn a thing, figure it out, how you can make a product out of that. You can literally be like, I'm working on sestinas, so I'm gonna write 50 of them throughout this year. Why not now make a book of sestinas that you can be like, yeah, these are sestinas. This is my process. This is part of my process. It's not where I want it to be yet. I'm still working on this idea, but that can be something that's productive. My one man show. My one man show was written to impress a girl. I wanted her to come to Tuscaloosa, so I went to impress her, but I was like, she's seen me do poetry before, so I got to do something different. And so I started working on the one man show, and then I was like, wait, I can make this my thesis. Okay,
Wow.
cool. So while I'm doing this process, I have a product. Like, and that's what I mean. Like, how can you turn your process into a product? That's kind of what I mean by that. I don't know. I just made that up, process into product, but I like it. I'm gonna have to remember
Yeah,
that
man.
process.
Yeah, yeah. You can. That's that's a whole class right there. That's part of Poetry University right there. So that's that's good, man. That's good stuff. But yo, man, Jahman, man, it's been about 45 minutes, man. I don't want to hold you up, man. So go ahead, man. Tell the people where they can find you, what you got going on, what you got coming up, how they can support you. Final words for the people, all that.
Yes. First, so y'all. Oh, my Cash App is Jamon Hill, and so is my Venmo. If y'all want to support in that way. But the way I really like, if y'all want to support me, is go to my website and buy stuff. Like Instead of just giving me $15, you can give me 20 and get a t-shirt. Like, much better that way. But I have books, CDs, t-shirts and stuff online. Really, JahmanHill.com. And then my Instagram, Jahman_Rondo. Most of the things that I'm doing, you can find there. And I have links to all my stuff in my bio too. Like, check out the Flourish, Alabama. I'd rather you give to my nonprofit than to me. Like, honestly, right now we're raising money. We're doing a full-blown poetry festival, all virtual for the kids in Birmingham, and we're trying to raise $3,000 in the next 2 months. So please just like go to our page, figure out how you can donate, like to the Cash App and the Venmo and the PayPal and all that good stuff there. Poetry University. We will be back offering classes in January with a whole new we taking December off to like reset, figure out what the poets really want to learn and stuff, and really give them some really dope stuff coming up next year. So yeah, that's that. Poetry University, Flourish, Alabama, Flourish, Alabama, Flourish, Alabama, Flourish, Alabama, Flourish, Alabama, and then me. You can find me on Instagram, but the Flourish, Alabama, the Flourish, Alabama.
Awesome. Jahman, I appreciate you, brother. It's been a pleasure.
All right, thank you so much, Justin. I love this.
Hey, no problem, man. Keep doing your thing, man. Keep putting on for the poetry community as a whole, and I'll be following your moves, bro.
All right, take care, y'all.
Peace. All right, man. There you have it, man. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Thank you for Jamal for coming on here, giving us a lot of game. Awesome conversation, awesome poetry. Yo, we do this every Thursday, so make sure y'all stay tuned at Urban Grind ATL. I am your host, Justin Patton. Make sure y'all follow me at I am Justin Patton. Until next week, next Thursday, 7:30. I'll see y'all. Peace.